Hello, I'm Adam Hurrey and welcome back to Football Cliches, the podcast about the language of football. Once again, this is Mesut Harlan Dix, in which our special guest chooses 3 tiny things they love about football and 3 equally obscure things they hate about it. You can listen to the full show and all the other episodes wherever you get your podcasts, and you can find them ad-free on the Athletic app. Brought to your eyes and ears by the Athletic, this is Football Cliches.
Number 1, fatuous statistics.
Right.
Now, obviously, I have to be careful here because I, like to an extent, you live in a world of statistics, and we are fed so many these days from so many different sources that your mind can go numb and you just blurt them all out and they're there and they just become a mush of nothingness. But my favorite hate statistic at the moment are the ones that we still get pumped out about so-and-so have a dreadful record against the Big Six.
Oh.
Who decides who the Big Six are? This thing, they had a terrible record against the Big Six last season, which includes their results against Arsenal. Now, Arsenal weren't in the top 6. This is an entirely random choice of a club to counter something that someone somewhere has called the Big Six for some reason of spurious convenience. What? Results against the Big Six is nothing, because the Big Six is different Chelsea can drop out of it. Arsenal weren't in it last year. Manchester City have only been in it for the last 9 or 10 years. Manchester United have been outside of it. Liverpool have only recently come back into the sort of magic circle. Big Six, tosh.
No, I disagree, but I think this is definitely worth debating. I mean, I don't think it's a purely league table thing. I think we can agree that it isn't just simply based on last season's top 6. I mean, it's if you beat Arsenal, no matter what league position you're in, that would be considered to be a big deal. Like for some teams, that would be an historical win. So the Big Six is, I admit, probably doesn't fit with the kind of statistical aspect of it, but it's still a concept worth keeping in mind, isn't it?
I understand that, Adam, but I would say that, great to beat Arsenal for the first time if you're a smaller club and all that. But last season, it was a bigger deal to beat Wolves and Leicester than it was to beat Arsenal. It just was. The league team says that, and there's no statistic that encompasses that.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It's just a made-up convenience thing. Way back when Sky bought the Premier League, Everton were one of the magic 4 or 5, or whatever it was then.
The Big 5,
Chelsea, second division or whatever. It's when did Everton stop being one of the big ones? Who decided?
Not sure. I mean, perhaps they're part of the medium-sized 7 or 8 now, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. They're one of those who just might.
Well, there's this ongoing debate, Charlie, in the editorial floor at the Athletic about what's the house style for Big Six?
Because something I've grappled with many times as well.
Do you put it in inverted commas? Do you capitalise Big and Six? Do you have to preface it with self-styled so-called?
The so-called,
so-called.
I generally settled on no idea if this was house style. Capital B, capital S, but no inverted commas. That felt sort of the Big Six.
No, I go for inverted commas first mention, and then after that, it does feel a bit indulgent. So we take them off after that. No, not sure if that's the official line, but that's what I've decided anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But something of a tangent there. But that's quite apt, Charlie, because the sort of statistic that Peter was describing there, where you're talking about a record that a club has over a certain period of time or against a certain type of opposition, sometimes you can go a little bit too far down the labyrinth to the point where it becomes actually quite useless.
Yeah, I mean, the issue I have, I like statistics and I like to use them when they're relevant, but the issue I have is when managers are asked something, as you say, it's a really arbitrary thing. So it'd be like, Jose, you've never won on a Friday. How significant will that be? And you kind of wonder, like, what the best case scenario is for that. Like, is he going to be massively significant? I think that could really decide the game. I mean, he's obviously going to say,
I cannot imagine how much shrift Jose Mourinho would give that. But yes,
not a lot. But it's the ones where, or it'll be like, that was the 10,000th goal Spurs have scored in the Premier League. How does that fit? It's kind of like, it's so arbitrary. It doesn't really tell you anything.
I agree totally, Charlie. And actually, again, can be as serious or as unserious as you want it to be. But actually, there's an extent to which, as we would all acknowledge, ahead of any given football match, history is meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done some work this morning ahead of tomorrow night's Liverpool-Burnley game, saying Burnley, you know, and I've gone digging and done the stuff, and Burnley last won at Anfield in 1974.
It's always it's always 1974.
You know, which is interesting, sort of. And there's no doubt I won't be able to stop myself. There's no doubt I'll use that fact in the
Slade
game.
were top of the pops.
Yeah,
Yes.
sort of. So what? How is that remotely relevant in the context of this fixture?
Peter, tell us about your next thing you absolutely despise about modern football.
Well, I'm a romantic and a traditionalist, and I'm sure, well, I'm fairly confident I'll get a lot of sympathy for this, and that is unnecessary kit changes. I really don't see why Manchester United or Liverpool should need to change their kit until and unless they're playing away to a team that also plays in red. And Chelsea and Everton, until and unless they play away against a team that also plays in blue. There's fabulous, glorious, unparalleled tradition and history in English football. And I appreciate that we live in a commercial world, and I appreciate that shirts sell, but it makes me weep a little bit inside when I see teams wearing colours that bear no relation at all to their history, their standing, their place in our memories and in our hearts. Watford and Norwich only need to change their shirts when they play each other.
Okay.
You know, that's possibly not necessarily the case, but where I'm coming from, Yeovil and Plymouth only need to change shirts when they're playing each other. Listen, I do know why. I've admitted I know why. It's because there's money to be made from having an extra kit or two.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I hate it.
I mean, commercial considerations apart, that's the reality, as you say, of the modern game. But I was interested to know on what level it affected you. And you appear to be, you're coming from a kind of traditionalist perspective. You know, these clubs have their colours and they should be celebrated and they should be embraced and used wherever possible. Charlie, for me, when I'm tuning into a game that I've had in my, as a neutral, you know, if this is like a mid-ranking Premier League game that's on BT at 12:30 on a Saturday, and I've had it in my head all morning that yes, I'm going to be watching, I don't know, Leicester versus Wolves at 12:30. In my head, I've got an image of what they're going to look like playing out on the pitch, and it's a very agreeable image, and it makes me want to watch it more. Then when they're walking out in changed colours, it's not a commercial consideration that hits me. It's not a historical thing. It's just this looks worse than it could have done.
Yeah, I know what you guys mean. I mean, it's not a. It doesn't bother me massively, but I can see that there is that element to it, and aesthetically, it doesn't have the majesty that you would from those as you're seeing it in your mind's eye when you're building, when you're doing your own pre-match build-up.
Talking of that precisely, beautifully and gloriously, Wolves played West Brom in a proper famous fixture at 12:30 on Saturday, and they wore the right shirts. Hallelujah.
Yeah.
And it was a really good game. So
yes, it was.
There you go.
Maybe there's a correlation.
I think there is a correlation because, I mean, football is consumed very much in theory, and you a lot of mental energy is kind of used up before the game even starts. So if the teams are wearing the colours that you expected them to wear, then that fulfills a lot of that stress. Peter, we've reached something of a crescendo here. I'm looking forward to talking about this last hatred of yours. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, well, my hatred is of referee haters. And I appreciate we're supposed to be having a light conversation here, and I don't want to get
okay.
But the extent to which at all levels of football, on the part from under eights up, certainly into the stands, certainly into the dugouts and onto elite football field, the extent to which people begin from the position that the referee is an idiot, he's wrong, he's here to spoil my day.
Yeah.
I think is a real stain on football from top to bottom, from dads on the under eight touchline who are onto the referee from the minute go. I often quote an early rounds FA Cup tie I did 4 or 5 years back, a bit longer ago than that, where two small teams were playing each other. One kicked off, and as in lower league football, passed it short, and the other bloke belted out the line, and it went out for a throw-in. And the throw-in was given to the defending team, and the attacking team's manager was immediately and audibly, because it was in a small ground, into the ear of the linesman, who had obviously got it right. And was
straight away as well. I mean, to generate that much anger within seconds.
Well, because, and that's my point, because it was preconceived. That was part of the plan of his day, or his default action, to blame the referee. And it goes for supporters. When on occasion, I am behind the goal, if I swap tickets with one of my boys behind the goal for whatever reason, a friend's coming or whatever, and I hear supporters, listen, we all put our hand up and go, offside, when we've got no idea whether it's offside, because we want it to be offside. But when it's an offside call at the far end of the field, and the flag goes up or doesn't or whatever, and usually, again, I get it, I'm not being silly, everybody goes offside and sort of hope it's offside, and it's not. That's offside. And I want to turn around and say, what on earth makes you think you know,
it's very logical.
I understand the instinct to want them to be wrong. But you know, I'm sorry to sound as if I've got a halo on my head here. I haven't. I've screamed at referees, but the referee is the facilitator of the football match. Without the referee, there isn't a game. You know, and the referee is a human being who absolutely will make mistakes, just as we all do every day. And God knows why they do it. Honestly, I mean, I've refereed youth football, and it's horrendous with, you know, and even the parents on your team are saying, come on, Peter, come on, can't you see that? And you want to go and say, listen, you do it. I'm doing my best. He's doing his best. And if I go away here, there won't be a game. And honestly, and the referees are humans, and I've met a few of them, and they're decent blokes.
No, of course they are.
And sometimes referees get accused of arrogance. And my argument on their behalf would be, how on earth can they do it, certainly at that level, without extraordinary arrogance? Because they have 22 alpha males on the field arguing at every turn, plus the coaches, and under normal circumstances, 50,000 people bellowing at them. And I need to have a strength of character to say, regardless of all of your opinions, I'm sticking to mine.
I really enjoy when people get angry by referees being perceived as arrogant, as if that might be a bad thing for their job. If anything, that would make you more resolute and more insulated from the crap that you would have to deal with. But I'm interested that you've raised this for two reasons. Firstly, there's something slightly referee about you. I think you've got a referee's name. We've talked about this on this podcast before. You've definitely got a referee's name. Can you imagine? And Peter Drury had no hesitation at pointing to the spot. You have a referee's name. I don't know whether it's a good or a bad thing and how you're going to take it, but you've got a referee's name. And the fact that you have admitted to refereeing a game just reinforces that completely. So, but secondly, perhaps more deeply, I think your sympathy with referees is perhaps because hating referees is a bit like hating commentators, because they're not out to stitch your team up. The job is a lot harder than you think it is. And crucially, they've experienced way more top flight football than you ever have. So I feel like there's a parallel there. And I guess linesmen are a bit like co-commentators in the same way. So do you have a kinship here? Do you feel like you suffer from the same kind of over scrutiny?
I think that's not impossible, to be fair, Adam. I've never thought of it that way. I think I'm a softie. I don't have a thick skin. And so I feel an empathy with others whose skin is certainly challenged in that regard.
Thanks very much for tuning into Football Cliches this week. You can find the full show in all the usual places and on the Athletic app ad-free every Thursday. For the latest subscription offer, just go to theathletic.com/clichespod. See you next week.